right, welcome to Season 2, Episode 38, also called Episode 70 of the Retro Game Club podcast. My name is Hugh, and joining me, someone who is snowed in his childhood hometown that he went back to after his parents' bookstore was going to be closed down, Rob.
Is that every Hallmark holiday movie?
It's like 80% of them.
You know, I think there's like one actor that plays the dad in every single Hallmark holiday movies. And I don't know if they have this channel in other countries where our listeners might be, but the day after, maybe even the day before Thanksgiving, the Hallmark channel on cable TV has hundreds now of holiday movies that are only slightly different than each other. Some revolve a puppy, some have a bookstore. What else is there?
Well, yeah. The kind of reoccurring one is like there's a woman from New York City or Chicago, and her job is that she has to find the Christmas tree for the city and goes out to like, you know, northern Wisconsin or something to find a tree. But of course, the best tree is like on this farm, and the farmer doesn't want to part with the tree because like he proposed to his dad proposed to his mom under that tree or something. You know, There'll be some kind of story like that. And you're being a little bit generous. These movies start the day after Halloween now.
You're right.
And they produce something like 20 new movies a year.
It's insane. Some of them have some big actors too. Most of them don't. Most of them are like X90210 and actors like that. Maybe some Saved by the Bell acting in there.
No, it's not Saved by the Bell. It's Full House.
There's some Full House.
There's a lot of Full House actors in there, actresses in there. A lot of that. A lot of people who, like you maybe recognize from like one film in the Zeros. Yeah, they don't get a lot of big name stars, and when they do, it's usually like a special, extras. Like I don't know. There was like one Mariah Carey movie that they produced a few years ago, and it's clear she's not actually being filmed at the same time as any of the other cast members because she's never in a shot with another one of the cast members.
I think that one is called All I Want for Christmas because she does the song. And I remember this because that song, they do the music video after the movie, like during the credits. And it is like almost pornographic. She's very close to being naked. And it just
okay.
I think I was watching, like it was on TV and it was like my kids were there. I was like, whoa, what is going on right now? Yeah. Very, very strange moment in my life.
Right, which for Hallmark standards, that's really over the top because these things are all otherwise G rated.
Oh, exactly. Yeah.
If there was something lower than G, they would be lower than G even.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
And I only know about these because like, I know about them. My wife and I have watched some of these for years, but then my wife, because, of her job, she knows a lot of the writers of these movies. And I think she's actually been trying to, one of her career goals is to actually write one of these movies. But, a lot of times they buy like romance authors' books, they basically buy the rights to a book and then they like completely tone it down. So like, the book may have originally been, kind of an R-rated movie as it would have been in original form. And like, they just like, well, how about instead they're decorating a Christmas tree?
Yeah,
it's a lot of like, it's a lot of that. And
there's a video game developer one this year, you said.
There is. Yeah. And I don't know why I knew about that one. That's not one where my wife knows the author. But I think it's set in Chicago. I'm not sure if it was filmed in Chicago. Most of these things, they basically, my understanding is they film all of these in like Calgary in March.
Okay.
Right, because they need small towns and they need snow.
Yeah.
And obviously there's a lot of editing, right? I've never tried editing a film. I assume it's a lot of work. And I think what I've heard is they go out to northern Canada, or I guess this is more like central Canada, where it's snowy and there's small towns, and they just crank out, 20 filming sessions in a couple of weeks.
But they also do, half of them are also in tropical weather. I think the rest of them are in Florida, like Marco Island or something.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, part of it, like the before part, is sometimes tropical.
Yes.
But they almost always have to be set somewhere wintry in the end. So yeah. So there you go. This has been the first episode of the Retro Hallmark Club.
That's our topic of the episode, I guess. What have you been up to?
I've been playing. So my youngest kid really got into the Shantae games. Have you played any of those?
No, but I know of them because of limited run games.
Yeah, and she really, she's never really been into platformers, but she really got into this series. I don't know, maybe I don't know why this series she likes so much. There's a lot of humor in them. They're kind of goofy. And over the past like 3 weeks or so, I think she's played through the entire series. They're short. They're like 8-hour games. Mm-hmm. But they're cheap. They go on, they are like half price on Nintendo eShop all the time. But it got me thinking that I still hadn't played the Dragon's Trap remake because the Shantae games, clearly were inspired by Dragon's Trap. Mm-hmm. And so I just went ahead and bought that and played through it in like 3 nights. It's a lot harder than I remember. I don't know if the difficulty is higher in the remake, maybe, or I'm just worse at games.
What video setting did you play at? New or old?
I played in the new fancy artwork style.
Okay.
Is that the question?
Yeah,
I didn't play in the retro style. I may do a playthrough in retro style still.
I kept bouncing back and forth because you have to go through each level at least. You have to do it at least once, so probably like twice level to get everything. And so I would do, once of each. That's a really good game, really good remake.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, it's really good. Yeah, I really enjoyed it, even though it is short. I mean, if you're buying the game on Amazon, you can get a physical copy for like $30, and it comes with a soundtrack CD.
Oh, cool.
So if you want to drive around listening to Dragon's Trap in your car or something, being a cool person like that, you can do that.
If you still have a CD player, yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. Can you buy a car that doesn't have a CD player still? Like, my car's only a couple years old. It has a CD player. I've never used it, but it has one.
I know, like Teslas and stuff like that don't have CD players, so I don't think the newer ones. I think a lot of newer ones don't.
Yeah, back in the day, we all had that one friend who got like a mini disc player in their car because they
were
was
me.
Cutting edge.
That was me.
Oh, it was you. You were the mini disc guy. Okay.
Yeah, that was me.
Yeah.
I was the TurboGrafx mini disc guy.
Yeah, with that like dorky caddy and everything you had to use.
Exactly. Yeah, I loved them.
How about you? What have you been up to?
I got some really bad news in the email this week. My Atari VCS will be here soon.
Yes. I still don't know why you bought it. It's like you bought it and then immediately started hating it.
Pretty much. I figured, like, well, see, back then, what was this, many, many years ago now? There was no good way to emulate other than like an Ouya or something, plugged directly into HDMI, for pretty cheap. So I thought this would be a really nice, powerful emulation machine. But now that many years have gone by and this thing's finally shipping, there are hundreds of options, probably. So, yeah, I don't know what I'm gonna do with this thing. I don't even have it, and I have buyer's remorse. So, I'll let you guys know what happens when it actually arrives. But other than that, because of our one of our games of the week, I've been playing with the Dolphin emulator for the first time, which is a GameCube, Wii emulator, if any of our listeners didn't know. And it worked out really well, other than in RetroArch, I had a few audio glitches. A few audio glitches, but my controls worked perfect. I played our game of the week, and I played Rogue Squadron 2.
Okay, that's a great game too.
Oh yeah, and then I used the actual Dolphin emulator, the standalone, and it worked a bit better. Like, it's hacked to make the games widescreen, stuff like that worked, much better. but my controls were a bit off, and I just couldn't fix them. So I couldn't get it quite right, but I was still really surprised on how well it worked. And also, I overclocked my desktop's memory by just a little bit, just barely. And that seemed to fix all the audio issues I was having. So I guess I was just like barely not fast enough to get there, and now I am. So it's kind of fun to be able to play around with that now. But other than that, that's all I've been up to. Have you been able to mess with Dolphin at all?
No, I've never really thought about it. I have a GameCube in every game that I would want to play on GameCube.
Yeah. So
and it's funny, like Wii is the system I maybe played the most in the 2000s, meaning the zeros. Mm-hmm. It's a toss up between like the Wii and the PSP probably. Mm-hmm. But there's just not a lot of Wii games that I ever want to play again. A lot of the Wii was like, because I had kids and there were a lot of games you could, a lot of party games, that kind of stuff. But like, I like JRPGs. There's like 2 JRPGs on the Wii.
Yeah, there's a lot of shovelware.
I know. I get it. There's more than 2. Understand my point? There's very, very few.
Yeah.
And there's like 2 Zelda games, and one of them's really not that good. Not that good by Zelda standards. It's kind of
and
average.
Those will probably be re-released on Switch soon anyway. My guess is next summer.
Yeah, if they could make if they could do like a not annoying remake of Skyward Sword, that'd be really nice. Because that game has a lot of potential to be good. It's just, it does a lot of really, really annoying things.
Yeah. Well, that's my next Zelda game I'm going to play. So I'll give you my review in the next month or two. Okay. That's one of the few Zelda games I have not played. In fact, it might be the only one.
Well, it has like one of the coolest items in the entire series. Like your Link gets different items, and he gets an item in Skyward Sword that I think is like one of the most fun items to use.
Which is...
But then there's a lot of stuff in there that will just make you want to rage quit.
What item are you talking about?
Talking about a thing called, I think it's called the Beetle, which is this, he gets like a drone basically that you can use to scout out rooms. It's meant actually to solve puzzles, like there'll be a tunnel and you have to fly this beetle thing through a tunnel to hit a switch or whatever. But you end up using it, at least I did, way more. Like you enter some new area and you launch this drone out to go survey the area before you go running into it.
Cool. Well,
yeah, I wish you had a drone in Breath of the Wild. That's like
that would be amazing.
Thing that game's missing.
Yeah. Not enough fishing in that game too. Just kidding. Should we dive into our news? We got some fun stories this week.
Yeah, the first one is not fun, but there is another Tokyo iconic video game arcade closing. You've probably seen pictures of it, or if you played like a Persona game, you probably like go visit it at some point, or some place that looks exactly like it. It's a place called Silk Hat, and it is a I'm not going to pronounce it correctly, but it's in the Ikebukuro district. I know I butchered that.
Ikebukuro district.
Yes.
Yeah, Sunshine 60th Street.
But yeah, I assume this is a victim both of like home systems being much, much better, but also COVID, right?
Yeah.
Like arcades have kind of morphed to be more like games that you can't replicate on home consoles, or, because they're huge or have sit-down components, or they're just, pachinko. They're just gambling games, things you can't really...
Yeah, redemption.
That aren't the same at home. Yeah.
Yeah, so...
like if you have the friend who has the mini disc player in the car, like you, right? And then sometimes do you also have the friend, or were you the one who like has a home bar that has a slot machine in their home bar?
I never understood that. Why? And also, last time I was at Comic-Con, they were selling pachinko machines. Why would you want one of those in your house? That makes no sense.
Well, that's kind of cool, right? I mean, that's if you're trying to build a Japanese arcade in your house. I think that's a must-have. The slot machine, I don't know. I don't get it. You're winning your own money, right?
Exactly, yeah. Well, I mean, pachinko, too, is gambling,
Yeah, that's true. I mean, yeah, it's not officially gambling, but it is gambling.
It's just so weird. Like, do you get to keep your pachinko balls and take them with you home? I don't know.
Yeah, again, I think it's atmosphere. I think I'm trying to build. Like, I don't know a lot of people trying to build a casino in their house. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
I understand wanting. I guess maybe this is just my mental block. Like, I understand wanting to build an arcade in your house. I can't understand wanting to build a casino in your house, even though I guess it's really the same thing at the end of the day.
It could be, yeah, different strokes.
Let's see. This was all over the internet. I saw it. That's how prolific this article was. Sega released pictures of their Nomad prototype. So the Nomad, of course, is a system that actually came out, and it was a pretty neat handheld. And this is a prototype that is much more kind of, I don't know, it's more Super Nintendo looking.
One thing I learned in this was that the Nomad was North America only. That really surprised me. So did you watch this YouTube video that's in this article? Because it's hilarious.
No.
Okay. After we do this, sometime this week, you got to watch this video because this guy, make sure my computer's muted while I play this video. This guy gets in front of a whiteboard and goes over the whole history of Sega consoles, but then he gets in front of a green board and he has the planets at the top, like pictures of the planets, and then he puts the corresponding system and when it came out and stuff like that, and he goes over the whole history of Sega consoles, like in a classroom, and it's just hilarious. It's a really good video. Everyone listening to this should watch this. It's pretty good.
Okay. Well, I don't have much else going on today, so perhaps I will. I will watch it.
Yeah. Do you want to emulate some Virtual Boy?
No. This is not emulating, though, right? This is a flash card.
Yeah, it's a flash card. Yeah.
You can play your homebrew games, I guess.
And it has a built-in eInk screen on it with 2 haptic touch buttons. So you load your games through USB and pick which game loads with the haptic buttons, and you see the picture on the eInk screen, and then you put the cartridge in and you play. The weird thing about this is it has to be powered through USB while you're playing it. So not only are you using the Virtual Boy with this cart, but the cart has to be plugged into like, USB into a wall or like a USB, battery type thing. I thought that was kind of weird, but for what this is, it looks like a really cool product. I don't need it, but it looks like they did a good job. And our article,
it's obviously a very, very small market, but the Game Boy the Virtual Boy development community is actually really, really good. There are a ton of homebrew Virtual Boy games. It's weird. There's something, I guess. I mean, I kind of understand this. There's something really appealing about like developing for this completely obsolete system that almost nobody owned.
Yeah.
Like, I would rather program for this than write a Macintosh program. Like,
yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, well, I could develop some Mac software that millions of people could use, or an iPhone app or an Android app, or I could write a Virtual Boy game that no one will ever play.
Yeah. Only the most hardcore people.
Yeah.
Well, this is, we linked to a YouTube video of Bob from Retro RGB doing a great review of it. So I definitely urge you to watch that as well if you want to see some cool EverDrive type stuff happening.
Let's see. So Capcom is getting in on the mini dedicated console business. They are, for the low price of $200, selling this oddly shaped box that contains games you already have multiple copies of.
I think this box looks cool. So it looks like a 6-button and a stick square controller. It's deep blue, Capcom blue and yellow, with a CRT looking thing on top. This thing almost looks like it's out of the Jetsons.
Mm-hmm.
So what do you think is dumber? This or that Capcom stick that is the word Capcom?
I think the stick is dumber.
It's close though.
Yeah.
It's close.
But could you buy 2 of the Capcom sticks? Because here's the problem with this. Like, I didn't read if this has a link cable or something, but most of the games on here, half of them are 2-player games.
Yeah.
But there's only one set of controls for this thing.
Yeah, so maybe we don't have all the info. If this is, because that's a very good point. I don't know if these could be linked up, but it only has USB. It looks like a mini on the back, or is that HDMI? I can't tell. These pictures are not high def.
Yeah, pictures aren't great. I just the price is terrible. I mean, if this was like $19.99, sure.
Oh, all day long, yeah. So, but here's what you get.
They're asking $200 for this thing.
Mega Man Power Battle,
so
not a bad game. Mega Man 2, the Power Fighters, not a bad game. Mega Man X, Mega Man Soccer, never heard of. Mega Man and Bass. Oh. Don't know that one. Street Fighter 2.
I've heard of all these. I think.
And a few Street Fighter 2s, up to Turbo.
Yeah. I want to say Mega Man Soccer. Yeah, we definitely had this at the video game store. It's just I don't know what game they're reskinning, but I think they're taking like a different soccer game or an engine from like a previous game and just inserting Mega Man characters and then adding like some special attacks and stuff.
Okay. So I clicked on the link and it's an 8-point-something-inch screen, so not too big, not too small. It says nothing about linking up, so
yeah.
Pass. Gonna pass on that one. I'll take my Atari VCS over that.
Yeah.
It's a toss-up.
Let's see. Where was I? Natsume. They couple of their games are getting limited run games reprints. So if you want to get physical copies of Shadow of the Ninja or Return of the Ninja, you will be able to buy those. I think you can buy them right now at Limited Run Games. I think I went to Limited Run Games just yesterday because they sent me an email about the Monkey Island 30th anniversary anthology. And I said, that sounds great. And then I saw the price.
Yeah.
And then I noticed these physical cartridge reprints. Bright blue. They are very bright blue.
Yeah.
You can also get them gray, I suppose, but...
Yeah, and that Monkey Island set is beautiful, but and high quality. But...
Yeah, after shipping, it's like $200.
Yeah.
I was hoping I could just get like a box of 3.5 inch discs from them.
Yeah, that is cool.
So I feel like we've talked about this emulator at least once. The 3D Sen. So this is the NES emulator that changes NES games to have like an isometric perspective, or give them 3D depth. And Final Fantasy and Dragon Warrior are the most recent ones to get support. Those look isometric. Those aren't. I wouldn't necessarily call those 3D. But I think they look pretty cool.
It's amazing how it. I mean, my mind can't comprehend how this code works. It's just amazing. It makes, when you're walking through the town, the houses look 3D. It looks like Google Earth when you do it, the 3D isometric view.
Yeah, it does. Absolutely.
And then what's the combat look like? Did it change that at all?
The combat doesn't look that different.
But still. And Dragon Warrior, yeah, pretty impressive. Yeah, so if you want your mind blown, check out this video or just try out this emulator. Hackaday, there's a how-to on how to actually unlock your new Game & Watch. That's it. I'm not going to go into details because almost none of us are actually going to do this because it looks impossible.
Well, I don't even know where you can buy one of these, and I'm not sure. If I did buy one, I don't really think I would hack it because it just seems like the worst way to play other games.
Exactly. Sega celebrates Sonic R's anniversary with new artwork from Sonic the Comics, Rich Elson. So yeah, on Twitter they released some new kind of comic book cover art that is pretty nice. And this isn't really a story so much as if you like Sonic, our listeners, you should check this out. If anything, it could be a good desktop background or something for you. On IGN, this is old, but someone brought this up again recently because of the new Xbox and Sony consoles that got released. It's console date, the release dates and prices, original price and inflation, for 2020 price. So like, for example, the 2600 released in 1977 was released for $199, but in today's prices, that's $842. Which I don't know if I really think of inflation that way, because there's no way people. I don't know. Does that make sense? That like,
it does. I don't.
Inflation doesn't really
I don't
work
know
that way, to me.
Yeah, I feel. Yeah, I agree. I've never been a big fan of these articles.
But it's kind of funny to see the perspective. Like, Neo Geo would have been over $1,200. Yeah, Genesis, almost $400. TurboGrafx 16, $415. So, yeah, really.
Right, but you could buy a house in San Francisco for like $2,000. So you had a lot left over at that point.
Yeah. So, yeah, I just thought I'd link this here. It's kind of funny to look at. What is next?
This is a new site. I don't think we've ever talked about this site, and I'm not even sure I've seen it before. But this is a site called Copetti.org, COPETTI.org. And they just posted an article called Sega Master System Architecture, which is a very good breakdown and description of the hardware behind the Sega Master System and how it works.
If you're programming a game for Sega Master System, I mean, this seems like a must for you to read through, just so real and theoretical limitations of everything, kind of secret limits of everything. There's diagrams, there's numbers, this is kind of the encyclopedia for Master System, if you ask me.
Mm-hmm. This doesn't actually look that different than programming for the Genesis.
Yeah.
I mean, you have fewer layers. The hardware is pretty. I mean, the concepts behind the hardware are very similar. It seems to work in kind of the same way. Tiles, background layer, sprite layer, blah, blah, blah. All right. I don't know if I'm going to ever program for the Master System. I've sort of thought about it a little bit, but...
No, just stick with Virtual Boy.
Yeah. Did you know Mario Kart DS loads differently depending on your chosen console?
I did not till I read this. So when you play Mario Kart DS on a regular DS, he says Yahoo, but when you play it on a DS, DSi, or a 3DS or the Wii U, he says, here we go. And no one quite knows why. So, not really a story, but kind of interesting. So, that's pretty strange. I did not know that happened. And that is a very good game.
There's another story here from Nintendo Life about how the bootleg game Crazy Kong almost put Nintendo's early arcade ambitions to rest, because distributors would buy the knockoff game because it was cheaper, I guess.
Well,
and the knockoff people could get the game out faster than Nintendo. Is that what was going on here?
Yeah. Nintendo couldn't get enough Donkey Kongs released, and an arcade or a bar needed something Donkey Kong-like, at least, so they would just buy this. And, yeah.
Yeah, I don't know how prolific this was, because I had never heard of Crazy Kong until I got into MAME in like the 90s. And then I saw a ROM called Crazy Kong, and I'm like, well, that must be a typo. And then played it and said, oh, well, this is some really tacky bootleg version of Donkey Kong.
Yeah. I don't remember seeing these out in the wild either. But yeah, I think I learned about it when I started, building and trying to collect arcade cabinets, and yeah, really strange, but obviously Nintendo came out on top. Like Nintendo does, they sued, but it took them a while this time. And at one point, it was selling 3-1 in Japan. That's crazy.
This is a article just for this is our section for hipsters.
Yes, exactly. Booting a vinyl record. So this person recorded FreeDOS onto a record, and you can watch a video of him booting up. He plays the record and he boots up to DOS. What's it? Is that a PC Junior? No, it's an IBM 5150 that he uses to boot.
Wow, yeah.
That is old.
Yeah, I mean, it's really, I don't think, drastically different than booting off a cassette in some way, I guess.
Oh, totally.
I think it's slower.
And hipper, yeah. But yeah, maybe that's something we could do. We could turn this into a business. We could just start releasing operating systems on vinyl. And it's funny, he has part of it going out of the speaker so you can hear what FreeDOS sounds like, and it's exactly what you think it'd be. It's a lot like a modem screaming.
Yeah, now see, if you didn't have to do like random access, you could load like an NES game this way. I don't know if you could, because of memory constraints. Okay, so anyhow, you could maybe make adapters for some other systems.
Mm-hmm. That's funny.
And the NES had a cassette adapter in Japan. Oh, no, it had a disk drive.
Disk drive, yeah.
Okay. Speaking of, we got what, a couple things left. Let's say 2. Nerdly Pleasures, a blog that we enjoy a lot, has a technical article about support for different NES and Famicom mappers in different FPGA hardware.
Yeah, this is kind of nuts. So let me explain this, and you tell me if I'm explaining this correctly, because I think you understand this better than I do. So this breaks down a lot of the FPGA devices that you could play NES games on, and it tells you how well they support each mapper. Is that what this is doing?
Yes.
Okay.
Correct.
And explain a mapper to our listeners.
I'm not sure I can. I know that the Kickstarter we talked about, go back to the Kickstarter episode where we talked about Doodle World, because Nate explains it better than I can in there.
Oh, yeah. That's a good idea.
Because I mentioned, it was weird. I tried, I got to work on different emulators. The first emulator I tried the demo on did not support the mapper he used. So he uses a mapper that's, I guess, really popular with homebrew developers. Mm-hmm. And that also would tell me, for example, that perhaps that game would not play on this is a real thing, the Bung Game Master V2. I've never heard of that. But that seems to have very, very limited mapper support versus the Analog NT, which seems to support almost everything.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I don't know what the Bung Game Master is.
By Bung Enterprises?
Have you heard of that?
No, not until this.
And then last but not least, East 1 and 2 are getting a re-release for the X68000, a Japan-only PC from Sharp. It was in the late 80s. I was actually looking at, it's going to go on sale March 2021 at a fairly well-known store called Beep. And I looked at it, it's about $90.
That is a lot of money.
Yeah.
Especially
It's about
since
$90.
you probably don't have an X68000, I'm guessing.
I do not, but this actually gives me hope that someone could also port this thing to Genesis.
Oh, that would be great. Actually, even better, Sega CD, and just bring the TurboGrafx music over. That would be great.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I'm just looking at the hardware specs for the X68000. So it's the same. It's the exact same CPU as the Genesis. More RAM, though. And then there's a later version with like a faster version of the 68000. I'm not sure what the video processor is here. But I'm guessing you could probably take the source code to this and port it to Genesis without a ton of work. Yeah, the sound chip is pretty. It's not the same sound chip as the Genesis, but it's a very close one. We'll say it's adjacent. And then it has a separate GPU, which this is the hard part. Yeah, so the video hardware is really, really different. So you'd have to rewrite that layer, I guess. But I mean, it's more powerful than the Genesis, it looks like, overall. But I don't think it would be impossible to scale it down. Not that they're going to. They've only ever released, I think East 3 is the only game in the series that ever came out on Genesis, and that was done. Famicom doesn't do console development, or didn't do console development back in the time. They were only PC developer in that era. So I think it was Sammy that ported it to console.
Okay. Yeah.
East 3. East 1 and 2 were ported to consoles by something like 90 different companies at this point.
Yeah.
There are ports of East 1 and 2 by like... I honestly, if I tried, I don't think I could name every company that's done a port of these two games. I mean, Sega did a port, Hudson, Atlas, Xseed, Bandai, I think. Maybe it was either Bandai or Broderbund did the USPC port. It's a mess. It's a terrible mess. But this would be cool. Yeah, I mean, it'd be really neat if you could get if like Limited Run Games or someone else would pick up like a US version of this. I think it's a really big long shot though, because we just don't have computers in the US to even play these.
Well, cool. That wraps up our news for this week. We already went through our topic of the episode.
The Hallmark movies?
Yes. So, brings us to Game Club. I'll just do mine. Mine's
You go ahead and do yours.
cool. Yeah. So, I did Tron Deadly Discs. I did it on Atari 2600. It's a 1982 game by Mattel. So obviously it was on Intellivision as well. I'll get into that in a minute. But there actually was, I forget if it was Retronauts or the Retro Hour that one of the guys that did this game was interviewed. It was a really good interview. But yeah, so obviously this takes place, this is about the movie, and it's, specifically the discs, that one disc to the death game, Deadly Discs. And so you are in a arena, and there's a few other guys, and they're throwing their discs at you. You have to dodge them, throw your disc at them, and also you can, on each of side on the borders, there's a different color square, which is a door. If there's doors across from each other, you could use them to get across the screen really quickly, and that'll also close the door. Or you could hit the door with your disc, and that'll close it as well. And that'll prevent more guys from coming out of those doors. And there's the warrior, which is just the regular enemy. There's a leader that requires 2 hits, I think. I guess there's a bulldog. I don't remember them. And then there's the recognizer and the guards, which I also think are just on the Intellivision port, which everyone thinks is the better port. But every time I tried to play that, I just tried a ROM. It brought up Deadly Dogs, which was like a hot dog game of this. So I think whatever ROM pack I got was not official, and it was someone just trolling people who were downloading ROMs. But hey, you get, probably you deserve that if you're downloading ROMs. So whatever. I really like this game. I think the graphics are great on 2600. I know they're a little bit better on a television, but I do think they're pretty comparable. I think the gameplay is great. My only complaint would be that when your disc is coming back to you, if it hits someone, it doesn't hurt them. That would kind of add another cool layer of action there. And you get 5 hits till you're done. It's not a very hard game. And I think it's really fun. I think it has great replay value too. What do you think about this one?
Yeah, I've always liked this game. This now initially I was really let down by it because I had seen discs of Tron in the arcade before Tron Deadly Discs,
which is amazing.
And that's just an amazing game, yeah. And it's a pretty big drop off. But yes, this is actually a really fun game. I know some people complain because it does get monotonous after a while because it's not hard. Like it's a very, very easy game, I think. Mm-hmm. And you can just kind of play it for hours. I don't know if there's any like end to the game or if it's just a constant stream of enemies and you're just trying to get the high score. I do like the Intellivision version better. Like you use the control pad, so you can throw in like 1, 2, 3, I guess 9 directions. Mm-hmm. So that part's pretty cool. And then you get the recognizers, which you have to like get a really precise throw into the eye to take them out.
Okay.
That's maybe the only real challenging part of the game is you have to get a very precise shot to win that, to take him out.
And I should mention,
but overall, it's not a particularly tough game. I mean, the enemies don't really like move faster than you or anything. Like it's pretty easy to avoid the enemies. The only real problem is like if an enemy hits you, it's real easy for you to get kind of stuck because like if one guy hits you, you're sort of stunned for a second, and another guy can then aim at you. And if you don't like if you don't unfreeze fast enough and start moving, you'll get a second hit right away.
Mm-hmm. So I'm on Twin Galaxies right now, and I guess the way they scored this game is as many points as you could get in 15 minutes. Or, people would be killing themselves trying to stay awake 48 hours to try to get a high score.
Yeah, I was going to say, the problem with Twin Galaxies, it's like, there's going to be a record where, like, some dude claims in 1982 he scored 8 bajillion points, but has no evidence of it.
Yeah.
And that's, a lot of times in Twin Galaxies, like, those bizarre records stay up forever.
So this one is 15 minutes, 21,710 points. And there's a video. So if someone wants to try to beat that, that was in 2005. Let's jump to your game.
I went, I said Super Monkey Ball, but then I really ended up playing Super Monkey Ball 2. I don't know why, but it's the same game. There's virtually no difference. Other than the courses are a little bit different. So Super Monkey Ball is you're a monkey in like a hamster ball, and you're just trying to complete a race course as fast as you can without falling off the edge. There's like bananas you can grab for bonus points and stuff. But then, of course, if you grab bananas, it means you're going to use up more time. So it's really a matter of whether you want to get more time or more points and blah, blah, blah. And it's I only really ever played this on GameCube. There's like a Wii version that's kind of terrible. But on the GameCube versions, there's also mini games that get added. Super Monkey Ball 2 has more mini games where you can like play golf with the monkey. And I like the golf game, even though it's kind of annoying because it's like an arcade game and it is constantly shouting stuff at you. To me, I like this game because it's like the most Dreamcast game ever made, even though it's not on the Dreamcast.
That's a great way to describe it. Yeah. It feels like a Dave & Buster's game.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it looks like a Dreamcast game. It has all sort of like the Sega aesthetics of that era, except it's not on the Dreamcast. Obviously, it would have been if the Dreamcast was more successful. Mm-hmm. It's just like very, very early 2000s. Everything about it is early 2000s, I think. And it's a fun 2-player game. If you got kids, this is a fun game to play together. And I didn't check how much this goes for. I think it's fair. Like, GameCube games tend to not be expensive, so I think this is probably a pretty cheap game to get. What did you think of Super Monkey Ball?
So this is my first time playing it. GameCube was, kind of the era where I wasn't gaming too much, and if I was, a game called Super Monkey Ball probably was something I was not getting. It didn't feel very deep to me. I probably only played it for 15, 20 minutes. I played the first one, and that's where I started. So I tried it on RetroArch with Dolphin, and it was all screwed up. The camera was everywhere. I didn't know what was going on. I didn't know if it was my fault or what. And that's when I tried the standalone Dolphin emulator, and it played great. And 60 frames a second, no glitches, and absolutely flawless. And yeah, it was kind of fun, but that's where I felt like it was like a Dave & Buster's game where it's like, yeah, you play for a few minutes and you walk to the next game, because it's not a very deep game, and at least, from what I played with it. And but yeah, it was pretty entertaining. I could definitely see it as a party game. But I did not try the second one. I think the third one, or one of them, is on the Switch. I heard the worst one is on the Switch.
There is a game on the Switch. Yeah, they become more sort of party game focused as the series progresses.
But yeah, not bad at all. It was kind of exactly what I thought it would be. You know what I mean?
Okay.
Yeah, just kind of, it is what it is, Definitely a product of its time. I'd be shocked if you can't play it on Android or something.
Oh, I have it on Android.
Okay.
But it was some weird thing where like Sega did like an Android game bundle. This is why I keep saying like when we get a mini Dreamcast, it's going to be games that Sega ported to Android. And it was like Crazy Taxi and a bunch of other stuff. But it was weird because like they didn't have any integration with the Google Store. This is a thing I bought quite a while ago. So you actually like downloaded the APK files, and then you had to like disable security on your phone to play them because you weren't getting them from Google Store. It was a really mess. Just a mess. But it was through like one of these game bundles, through like a real reputable, humble bundle kind of deal.
Cool.
Perhaps now they've figured out how to actually integrate it with the Play Store, so you're not doing something really, really hacky like that.
Yeah. Well, cool. What do you want for this next episode?
So I was thinking back to Christmas from 25 years ago, which would be 1995. And I was thinking, what was like the hot, most like hottest popular game, Christmas 1995. And I landed on Spider-Man Web of Fire for 32X.
Love it.
I know. Also, just because I was thinking about Spider-Man games because of the PlayStation launch. So it's a game that was literally came out like 25 years ago, maybe not today, but close to today. It was technically the last 32X release, at least in America. I think Europe had one more that we did not get in the US. And very limited release. Usually I try to pick games that are easy for people to play. This is going to be like a very, very rare exception to that.
Yeah. I love, I remember liking this game a lot, so I will definitely play it this week. And I'm going to do Shadow of the Ninja on NES because we just mentioned it in our news items. So I figured it's been a long time since I've given that one a try, so might as well play it a little bit. And if any of you play any of these games or have any cool projects or news or stories or questions, email us at email@retrogameclub.net or facebook.retrogameclub.net for Facebook, or at RGC Podcast for Twitter. Again, that's email@retrogameclub.net. That's our preferred way to communicate, because we are retro and email's retro.
I'm going to get this email from Majors. There's a couple of good topics in here. One I want to talk about a bit more. But first, why does Rob hate Green Lantern? No, I can't. Yes. Yeah. The whole progression of how Marvel IP was cheap in the 90s and now is basically like printing money.
Yeah.
Dreamcast getting Atomis Wave ports. So the Atomis Wave, they are not done on Sega Naomi, right? That's
Yeah.
the thing here. So Sammy had a different piece of hardware called the Atomis Wave, and it's very, very close to the Naomi hardware, but not the same. And it's kind of a puzzle why Sega never ported those, other than perhaps because the Dreamcast just generally wasn't doing well.
Mm-hmm.
And talking about obscure computers, was happy to hear about the Sword M5 computer, and that there's a similar computer called the Bandai RX78 from that era that is also very, very obscure, and they tend to go for like $300 to $400 used if you want to try to import one of those, which is crazy. Some love for Mach 3 arcade game in here too. I've only ever seen the Mach 3 arcade game once. Like I saw it exactly once at an arcade, and then it like wasn't there the next week. I'm assuming it broke down or something. But apparently, Major said he got to play quite a bit, and it was the only like Laserdisc game he actually liked because it's really more of an action game. It's like an Afterburner clone and bombing game. I don't know if you've ever played this game, but it's essentially like imagine Afterburner, but it's like real movie footage going on behind you while you're playing. So the backgrounds are like super realistic, but it's like Afterburner type of mechanics.
Yeah. A bit ahead of its time.
Yeah, it was a very, very cool looking game. But I think I'd probably cost the arcade like $20,000 to get that thing there. Which adjusted for inflation is like $8 billion or something. I don't know. I'm doing some of this out of order. So Game Club game feedback. Super Monkey Ball, good game for parties, good group of friends. And Tron Deadly Disc, big fan of the Intellivision release, except it's kind of a pain to use the keypad for firing. I kind of have the opposite opinion. I actually like the keypad a lot. But I can understand, like, the keypad is not good for action games. Like, it's not, the intent of that keypad was really not to do, like, fast action games. Mm-hmm. So let's see. And yeah, because of the Disney license, it's very unlikely we will ever get one. And then he does mention Deadly Dogs, which honestly I'd not heard of until you just mentioned it. Maybe I heard of it before.
Okay. That's weird.
Yeah. And I think some of these hacks were done basically so they could be re-released under a different name. Like with Intellivision, like when you get the Intellivision collections now, there were a few Dungeons and Dragons branded games for the Intellivision. Mm-hmm. And really that was just like they already had a game idea and they slapped the license on it. So when they re-release those now, they strip the name out. Mm-hmm. And they had a couple other licensed games where you could... I mean, honestly, like the Burger Time sequel started as a licensed game where then they lost the license. So they made it a burger... So they swapped out the sprites with Burger Time characters.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it was originally... have you played Diner?
No.
The sequel to Burger Time?
No.
Oh, so in that game, you're the chef and you're like kicking meatballs down a hill at hot dogs and stuff. Originally, that was like He-Man throwing boulders down a mountain was like the original game.
Okay.
And then something with the He-Man license fell through, so they just really quickly changed. They just reskinned it. You just wanted to let us know that the most recent episode of the Atari Jaguar Game by Game podcast gives a shout out to us, and also the Do the Math video. And I actually got to go listen to this because in this episode he's reviewing Super Burnout, which is really like an underrated Jaguar game in my opinion. I kind of want to hear if he feels the same way about it. It's if you like Hang On, like Super Burnout is really a kind of a Hang On ripoff, but it's a really good Hang On ripoff. To say it's one of the top 10 best Jaguar games isn't maybe the best compliment of all time. But it is one of the 10 best Jaguar games.
Yeah.
Electronics Boutique 1997 catalog. Did we talk about that? I guess I did.
Yeah.
But yeah, so he worked at a game store around the same time and also hated the triangle boxes. I talk in the article about how much if you worked at a game store, how much you hated the IDOS boxes. And around that time, he mentions that he bought a CD burner for $700, which is about what they were going for in the catalog too. So that's crazy. And then a couple more notes here. He has a sad story about a friend of his who sold all of his arcade cabinets so then he could get into paintball.
Oof.
That's a bad life choice.
Yeah. Go in the wrong direction.
I've got nothing against paintball, but I also don't have anything for paintball. Trade Wars game on BBS Trade. Wow, which one of us was talking about Trade Wars?
We were talking
BBS
about that.
game?
I forget why. I think it was a news item that we were talking
Okay.
about door games. Yeah. So he was a fan as well.
And okay, I haven't played. Yeah. I assume last episode I also pleaded ignorance about this game. And then Darksoft Namco System 1. So he's a regular customer of Darksoft, but looking over the instructions for this new thing, not so big on it. So I'm going to be taking a pass on this one. And includes a nice thanks to us and especially to Zach for putting this out every week. Or whatever interval we put the show out.
Yeah, whenever we get to it. And so Majors, thanks for that email, or those two emails actually. And
yeah, and thanks to Zach again for all the help with the show and taking care of social media and all that.
Yeah, and
all that stuff that I don't want to
exactly. And not much on social media this week, but so those games again are Shadow the Ninja on NES and The Amazing Spider-Man Web of Fire on 32X. So please reach out to us. Email at retrogameclub.net. And I think that wraps her up.
Yeah. And next episode, even more Hallmark movie talk.
Exactly, yes.
So, all right. So thanks for listening.
Yeah, thank you.